All right, guys, so today we're starting chapter 14.4, quadratic transformations. All we're going to have to do today is take a parabola and move it around and see how it changes if we add or subtract or multiply things to the equation. So the first thing we need to know is what's the parent function for all quadratics? Well, the parent function is f of x, and if you don't remember, f of x is the same as saying y is equal to x squared. This is the parent function for every quadratic we've talked about, and it's just a parabola that's based at the origin. So let's go to our calculator. Let's put that in and let's graph it. So I'm going to go to y equals, I'm going to hit x squared, and I'm going to graph it. Now the first thing you should notice is that its vertex is at 0, 0, the origin. The next thing, I want to look at the table. If I look at -1 and 1, if I go -1, it's up 1, and 1 is up 1, like the reflection. So I'm going to plot those 2 points. Now we can sketch it in. You're going to have to draw this parent function on every problem today. It always has to be based at the origin, and you go over 1, up 1 on both sides to sketch it. Now, let's do some transformations. Now it says if I use f of x, which is x squared, I can transform it and get a problem that's g of x and h of x. Well, the first one says g of x equals f of x plus 1. Well, f of x is x squared. So I'm going to take x squared, I'm going to add 1. Now I'm going to keep my x squared graph in y1, and I want to see what happens to it when I put in x squared plus 1. Well, when it graphed that second one, it's just shifted up 1 point. So instead of the vertex being at 0, 0, it's at 0, 1. And instead of being over 1, up 1 from the origin, it's over 1, up 1 from that point. Now I can resketch it. So the basic shape didn't change. All that changed is that it shifted up 1 unit. So it says, what did plus 1 do to the graph? It's a shift up 1. So if you're adding something to your equation x squared, you go up. You just shift it up. Now let's look at the next one. It's a little bit different, not much. It says f of x minus 2. So it's saying f of x, which is x squared, but I'm going to subtract 2. So if we went up 1, when we added 1, we might go down 2 on this one. Let's check. So I'm going to change to x squared minus 2, and it's just like I thought. It's going to shift down 2 units. So instead of being at 0, 0, I'm at 0, negative 2. I go over 1, up 1 on both sides of it to get my transformed parabola. So we can come over here, and it says, what did minus 2 do to the graph? It was a shift down 1, or 2, I'm sorry. So if I'm adding or subtracting something to the end of my equation, it's just going to shift it up or down. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Now, I want you to go ahead and look at the next one. It's a little bit different. It says if f of x is still x squared, let's have g of x as f of x plus 3. But notice up here, the 1 and the negative 2 are outside our parentheses. Now it's inside. So we're going to write this a little different. We're going to take x, and we're going to add 3 to it. Then we're going to square it. So I have x plus 3 squared. I'll move that up a little bit. Probably shouldn't have written it yet. So first I'm going to go ahead and graph my parent function, x squared. Got the vertex at the origin, over 1, up 1 on either side. And now I can sketch my graph. Now since it's inside the parentheses, we open up parentheses, put x and the number inside, and then put squared on the outside. Now let's put that in our calculator and see what happens. I'm going to keep the x squared, but I'm going to go down, I'm going to clear it. Parentheses, x plus 3, close parentheses, squared. Now if I look at this one, it shifted left. Its new origin is at 0, negative 3. I go over 1, up 1 on both sides, and now I can sketch it. So this time I was putting my plus 3 or my number inside the parentheses. Instead of up or down, it shifted left and right. So it says, what does plus 3 do to the equation or do to the graph? It's a shift left 3. Now that may seem strange because it's plus 3 and went to the negative direction, but think of something like this. If we were solving quadratics like this, Well, we'd have to move the 3 to the other side, and the sign would change to x equals positive 3. So that's kind of what it means by its opposite. These are left and right shifts, and it's opposite than what you might think. So now we have our other one, f of x minus 4, which is in parentheses x minus 4 squared. So let's put that one in our calculator and see what happens. So y equals, got to turn it back on. I'm going to clear out my other one. I'm going to put in parentheses x minus 4 squared. This time it was a shift to the right 4. So my new origin is at over 4 up 0. I go over 1 up 1 to get my other 2 points. And I can sketch my parabolas. Now you can also use your tables to sketch those parabolas. It doesn't matter to me. So on this one, what did negative 4 do to the graph? It was a shift right 4. So there's 2 things we've learned so far. If it was outside the graph, like the ones up here, those were vertical shifts. These right here are horizontal. But remember, they go the opposite direction than you might think. So keep that in mind. Now, of course, that shouldn't be a problem with the quiz because you'll have your notes in front of you. All right, let's go to the next one. Let me erase all this. Okay. So we've got one more on this page. And you got to remember, inside the parentheses is horizontal, outside is vertical. So I'm still talking about my parent function x squared. I'm going to go ahead and graph it real quick. You should be quick at doing that. Do it a lot. If you need to pause, go ahead. Now we have that g of x is negative f of x, which is outside the parentheses. So I'm going to put outside negative x squared. Now I'm putting the parentheses to add emphasis. If you did this, it would work just the same. So I'm going to go over to my calculator. I'm going to keep x squared and y1 so I can compare. And I'm going to put negative x squared and y2. So this one looks a lot the same, except for instead of opening up, it's opening down. The origin's still at the center, or the vertex is still at the origin, but now instead of going up 1, I go down 1. And I get a new parabola. Now, there's lots of different ways to name this. You could say that's a flip. The way we're going to do it is we're going to say that is a reflection over the x-axis. So anytime you have one of those, it is just a reflection over the x-axis. So those are pretty easy, and those are the main 3. Let's continue on and do a couple more. Let me erase all this. So inside the parentheses means we're going horizontal. Outside means it's something vertical, up or down. So now we're doing the same thing, except for the negative is inside my parentheses. I'm going to go ahead and plot my parent function. May not be perfect, but it's a sketch. Now I'm going to rewrite my equation. It's f of negative x inside the parentheses, so I'm going to put negative x inside the parentheses and square it. Now this one's going to be hard to see. When you put this one in your calculator, let me put it up here. I'm going to keep x squared where it is, but I'm going to go down here and clear it and put parentheses, negative x, close parentheses squared, and if you notice, it's the same thing. That's kind of deceiving. What I want you to put here is that when you do a negative inside the parentheses, it is another reflection, except for instead of over the x-axis, it's over the y-axis. Now, it's kind of hard to see this. I'm going to put another one in the calculator just so you can see the reflection. I'm going to put x plus 2 squared, and I'm going to put negative x plus 2 squared. Now you can kind of see it. If you look, this one, if it was flipped over that line, would give you the other one right here. Okay? So this is one of the hardest ones to me because it's hard to get a good example. But remember, if the negative's on the inside, it's horizontal, and we're thinking we're reflecting over that line. Okay? All right, there's a little question underneath this. It said, if f of x is x squared, what's the difference between negative f of x and f of negative x? Well, Negative f of x is a reflection over the x-axis. Negative f of x, I don't know why I wrote 6. Negative f, golly, I did it again. Sorry, guys. How about f of negative x is a reflection over the y-axis. And there you go. So just keep that one in mind. That's kind of a tricky one, but you should have your notes at first. If you'll practice them in your homework, it'll be pretty easy. All right, guys, let me erase this, and we'll go ahead and go to the next one. We're almost finished, sort of. Okay. Now, this one's a little bit different. We've been adding and subtracting or throwing negatives in there. This one is multiplying. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here and make this 2 videos, guys. So if you need the next one, just look it up.